Today's toy spot, why we're having a look at the Playmates Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles FishFace, Shredder's Underworld Underwater Thug. I just found these at in retail. Never thought I would. It seemed like we got endless turtles. And we got Krangs, we got a couple of foot soldiers just kicking around, but nothing really new. Then, lo and behold, went to Toys R Us and found these. A little late, but Spot did eventually get them. I kind of like the Mutants. I miss Bebop and Rocksteady, but for the most part, I still really like the Mutants. On the back of the package, you can collect them all. You can collect Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo of the Turtles, Splinter, April O'Neil, and Metalhead. And of the villains, there's Foot Soldier, Dog Pound, FishFace, Shredder, and Krang. FishFace apparently has venomous jaws, sword, and knife. He is Team Foot Clan. And his read-up says, a thug with no equal, FishFace was once Xever, a street urchin recruited by the Foot Clan for his incredible criminal skills. Mutated by the Krang, this crook's become even more crooked thanks to his hybrid body. Forced to rely on powerful robotic legs and an external water-breathing rig, FishFace may be the fish out of the water, but he doesn't stop him from being the Turtles' most cutthroat enemy. That's a really neat image of FishFace. What I am going to do is take a bit of a break. I'm going to get this fish out of, not necessarily the water, but get him certainly out of package. When we come back, we're going to get a better look at the figure. There's definitely more on the way. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. What accessories will you get with FishFace? Well, let Spot show you. For starters, you get yourself a very small blade. Small blade with a very small handle. Absolutely no paint to speak of. It's just a kind of brownish gray in coloring. If the knife is too small for your liking, FishFace has a much larger sword, same coloring, relatively long blade. The one thing that's I don't care for is the fact that these pieces right here seem like they're relatively flimsy. In fact, bending them, you can already see, boom, boom, and boom, they develop stress marks relatively quickly. Not to say you're going to likely be bending handles. I don't know why you would just go out of your way to start bending handles, but if you're not careful, these small, thinner pieces of plastic in between, if they're bent the wrong way, it could likely break off. Now, take that perhaps as a blessing. Perhaps if you are somebody that says to yourself, well, you know, I like it, but I find like the handle is a little too large. Just break it off, boom, you've now got a much smaller handle. It almost looks better like that than it does as long as it is. It almost looks like it's too long of a piece. Boom, it's an adjustable handle. You can take the handle and, I haven't tried this yet, but we'll see if we can get it into his hand. I had one problem with FishFace getting him out of package, and I'll discuss that in a second after we resolve this whole thing with the sword. See if we can actually get the sword into his hand. Unfortunately, his hand has very pliable fingers. They do like to close up on themselves if you apply pressure to it. Now, he does hold the sword not well, although Spot probably could have tried a little harder to get the blade into his hand, but he does hold it. FishFace with his long sword. Taking that out of his hand, the one thing I had a problem with this figure was not really necessarily this, but actually this right here, his arm. When I got it out of package, his arms were kind of out, like you see right here. When I bent the arm, this one was easy to bend. This one was stuck. I could not, for the life of me, bend it. So as I applied pressure, I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a stress mark that has formed right at his elbow where Spot was applying the pressure to try to get the arm to bend. I didn't honestly think I was going to bend it. I thought it was just going to break right off, and Spot was going to have to come back to this review with some really bad news. There would have been tears shed not only by, I'm sure, myself, but some FishFace fans out there. But needless to say, I was able to get the arms fixed. I really like this figure. I like him quite a bit. For starters, I think the biggest thing that I like about the figure is the coloring. Nice, vibrant purple, almost like a purplish pink. Kind of reminds me of a taffy color. Nice, delicious taffy. Now, along with the purple, he's accented with this really neat orange. And I think just overall he works really, really well. Now, unfortunately, there are things like his mouth that don't open. You would look at it and assume that it should open, but it does not. It's just a solid piece. They could have simply put articulation there. I don't know why Playmates opted not to. But that aside, I think the figure as a whole is really neat. You can see he's got his robotic lower torso, kind of his robotic leg belt going on there. He's got his robotic legs. You know, I suppose you could take this off if you wanted to kind of reattach him, but why would you go through such ridiculousness? I like also the fact that he's got treads underneath his feet. Yeah, as a whole, he works really, really well. You know, maybe not necessarily the equivalent of a Bebop and Rocksteady from my era of Ninja Turtles, but a really cool new mutant. Speaking of which, I'm going to put him right there. I'm going to bring in Dog Pound so you guys can see the difference between the two. Dog Pound, again, should be a little taller, but oh well. I do like the differences between these characters. They complement each other in the sense that they are so drastically different from one another that it works really, really well. I think the colorings work really, really well also. Moving Dog Pound out of the way, I've reviewed him if you want to check him out. In the way of FishFace's articulation, now his head does rotate left and right. I haven't had any issues yet where you see the tubes are connected to the sides of his face. I haven't had any issues yet where turning it too much I see any stress marks here. They have allotted and they've given enough pliableness to the tubes here that turning his head, I don't think you're going to worry about this breaking off or tearing. He has no articulation. Well, he does have slight, I should say that. He has slight articulation in the head. That's surprising. I actually thought it was just in his neck, but his head also rotates, his face. No articulation in the mouth, but oh well. His arms also go up and out, being that they have a hinged ball joint, pin and socket ball joint. He has a rotation in the wrist, no articulation in the elbows, but for arms this flimsy, for this small, if you had put a joint there, this arm would have gotten really, really loose eventually. He's got a waist swivel, his legs go forward and back, no knee articulation, but again, I can live with that due to the nature of how thin and fragile these joints would have been. And then he's got a swivel in his tail as well. So some really neat articulation. It's not simply just swivel arms, swivel legs. He's at least got a little extra going on that you can move him around. I guess the only thing I would have said as a whole that could have improved this figure was maybe some articulation in the jaw. But I like this figure. I could have picked him up a little sooner, I think, online. Sometimes our retail here is a little slow. That Spot sometimes, has to wait to get some of these toys. But I am really glad that I picked up FishFace. He's just a fun little character, and you know what? He goes well on a shelf with the other Ninja Turtle toys. FishFace, I'm going to give him a 7. Today's toy spot, we're having a look at the Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles FishFace. A really, really cool figure. And I think detail-wise, he looks really neat. You can let me know your thoughts down below of this particular toy. If you guys like it and have picked him up, let me know down below. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.